Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Techcast with the 429 podcast. I'm 4,
Two.
And I'm 9.
and this is now our second week in a row. We're back at it. Hopefully, we can keep the streak going again. Keep bringing you guys episodes of Techcast. As per usual, world is pretty crazy, so we got quite a few things to talk about that went on this week. So why don't we go ahead and get right into episode 27. All right. First thing, you guys know my favorite articles. Come on, I'm a cybersecurity nerd. You know this.
Mm-hmm.
21 million user data exposed in a massive VPN hack. So
I love how this always happens on one of your weeks.
two VPN providers, Super VPN, Gecko VPN. I'm sorry, 3 VPN providers and Chat VPN, all free services, by the way, free, right? So all of them lost 21 million overall mobile app user data. And this
Fun.
included stuff like email addresses, randomly generated password strings, payment information, device IDs, like you name it. They got a lot of stuff from this breach. It was, this is a really messy one, and I hope that these free VPN services were doing proper things, like I don't know, being PCI compliant and properly protecting your payment card information, as well as using good password hashing techniques in order to actually make sure your passwords and whatnot are safe and secure in the event of a breach.
Mm-hmm.
Something tells me that the free software that had massive breach like this might not be following those guidelines to the T, but hopefully they were. Fingers crossed. I feel like every week we're here talking about another data breach or another privacy violation, and hopefully this stuff starts happening less and less. I would maybe like to see these guys be made an example out of. If all this data gets breached and it was for, another dumb reason, I always think back to this, right? Like your Equifax breach where they were running an outdated version of Apache Struts, or, your recent SolarWinds breach where some of these breaches were caused by, lack of password management and literally having just terrible password security. A lot of these things just seem to be complete oversight and negligence, and, you can't have that. Anyway, what do you guys think about this? I think this is a pretty blunderous situation.
It's pretty upsetting. I mean, I really like what is it, malware bytes, right?
Yep.
I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like them. I use them a bit. And I thought they were always pretty good.
Oh no. So this Malware Bytes is just the article it's reporting. The actual
Oh,
services were Super VPN, Gecko VPN, and Chat VPN.
oh, okay. That was good because I like them. Okay, so yeah. I mean, they were free, right? That was the
Yep.
biggest appeal.
Yep.
Okay, so it made sense.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's the number one rule when it comes to your security. If it's free, it's gonna come at a cost. And
If it's free, it's not for me.
yeah, it pretty much is. If there's one thing, if you should take away one thing from this episode today, if you're looking into security tools or anything that protects anything sensitive information about you, make sure it's not on a free service. Where's the money to protect you? There isn't. So they're gonna be cut. They're gonna be shortcuts, and most likely it's gonna come at the cost of your information. It's just pretty much a clock ticking. Eventually, you're going to be the one that loses the information.
I think that's kind of a good general rule. You're right. A lot of the free services are really just like adware, or they're not properly secured, or they don't do the right things. And I'm not going to say that for every free service, because some of them do a good job. Like for example, I think LastPass I think has some free options, or
It was. So they recently changed their policy, actually.
Oh, did they? I see.
Yes. So it's still free. So people who are out there who want to be into LastPass, it's still free. But they changed this, and now you can't just use it in and out of devices. You have to limit it to one type of device. So it's still free. I mean, but it's limited. I would say one that so far has been an exception to the rule has been a password manager called Bidwarn.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely free, and from my research on them, all their security stuff comes with the free trial, right? This means like what's it called? All the security encryptions you can do, all that type. You can encrypt your vault, encrypt it, all free of charge, completely. and they run mostly on donations and the fact that they're open source. And you and the to upgrade to their premium just offers even more advanced security stuff, and it's really cheap too. So I highly recommend them. They're really good, and I would say they're only exception to the rule. But usually, you can also kind of tell when one of these free ones are kind of like you said, malware. Especially even the name itself kind of gives it away. Like if it's like super VPN or like free VPN or ultra fast VPN, like it's like if their name sounds like a tagline or an advertisement of their service, it's kind of a red flag.
So you're telling me a super amazing free VPN I have right now is not safe?
Yeah, and the one that installs two bars on your browser, that's kind of a bad sign too. Usually. Yeah.
I thought that was a feature, not a bug.
No. I'm looking at you, Yahoo, who keeps installing. You know how many family members I had to uninstall 2 bars from Yahoo because of them. But yeah, I mean that's I think that's a good rule. But I think that's a really
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
What do you think too?
No, I agree. I think you guys both nailed it on the head, right? Like, you gotta be very mindful of your security. If you're using a free VPN, got a hint, don't. Use something that's a more, sustainable service. My personal recommendation is NordVPN. I know that's the most familiar one I am aware of, and it's actually been pretty safe, and it's not bad. But you can also just not use a VPN, also, right? Don't be stupid on the internet. Is my
if you need to use a VPN here. And you want to save a couple of bucks, there's really 2 options you can go down. Either watch a YouTube video. Eventually, one of them is going to advertise you NordVPN or ExpressVPN. Use their code, whatever. You probably save a couple of bucks. Wait until Black Friday. That's how I got my great deal. The other route, and this is talking to all my programmer listeners out there, make your own VPN server. It's very doable, and it's a great project itself. And you can harvest all the benefits of a VPN without any of the cost.
You can use services like OpenVPN is a really popular one.
Exactly.
Even a lot of your modern routers for your that you use for your home network actually have VPN services built in, or like native compatibility with like OpenVPN. So
yeah, if you don't even have one like that, you could use a Pi.
Yep, and then other than that, it's pretty much free, right? You host it on your router, or you get a $30 Raspberry Pi, and I mean you're navigating securely for free. Now the only thing I would note about that is just do be aware. Now, anyone that is going to breach your device might have access to your home network. So, depending on the reason for you using a VPN, maybe you don't want to be VPN'd into your home network at that point in time. So that's just one consideration I would make. But aside from that, if you're just doing it for the purposes of browsing privately and ensuring that all of your transmissions are secure, and you're not really worried about being breached or anything at that point in time, then that's another really good alternative.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's take a look. What do we got next? So I think 9. I think you especially are gonna like this one, but this is a little bit of a shakeup in the music streaming world, and maybe we can see another competitor getting a little bit larger here. So anyway, Square. Like the actual company, I believe they had like the little Square payment stuff, their payment card industry.
I'm familiar with them.
They just bought a majority ownership of the music streaming application Tidal. So if you guys don't know what Tidal is pretty much meant for high quality like music audio files, right? They stream everything in like studio quality. It's meant for people who really, really like audio and like high quality audio. So that's been their main, interest since they really started to stream music. But now Square bought them. Square is very publicized. They have commercials everywhere. I can say I don't think I've ever seen a Tidal commercial before actually trying to like sell me Tidal. So I guess they might spread a lot over word of mouth, or maybe my ad details just don't do enough to get me their ads. But anyway, I know that Square is very big in advertising and marketing, and you see their commercials all over. So I'm curious if we're going to see more of Tidal now, kind of getting pushed at you as an alternative to Spotify and Apple Music or whatever. And then on top of that, Square actually adds Jay-Z to the board, and that's another reason why I think they might try to kind of gain some more publicity here, right? Because you don't just add a big name like Jay-Z to the board of the artist company and not be trying to kind of expand your marketing
So I'm gonna kick off this commentary on this one. I'm very familiar with Tidal actually. So Tidal is actually this is insane news first of all for Square, right? Because it's kind of, if you want to think about it in a sense, this is kind of like how Apple acquired Beats, right? Except now, you had Beats Music, Beats headphones, the Beats products that they were selling. Tidal is strictly music streaming services, right? And it's very high quality. And the reason it was designed was Jay-Z was actually one of the founders, right? They wanted to make, a music streaming platform that was for the artist by the artist, right?
Yep.
And that's what the whole goal behind Tidal was. And, it's been an amazing platform. Super excited to see what Square does with this. And Square, itself is just becoming a powerhouse when it comes to this whole space, right? They had they're owners of Cash App, they're owners of Stellar. Square itself is a financial tech company, but it's nice to see them expand outside of the fintech realm, but to also get into this music streaming. It's going to be exciting to see what they do with Tidal, right? And
I don't want to interrupt.
I think the power.
But do we know do you know who the CEO of Square is?
That's Jack Dorsey, right?
Jack Dorsey, yep.
Yep. The same CEO of Twitter, actually, right? So he runs both companies. So it's going to be really exciting to see the synergies that come from this and just see how the advertising is going to go through. And I think you nailed it, right? I think the advertising is going to go insanely well, right? More than it has in the past, right? Because I have seen Tidal advertisements, but you're right in the sense that Apple Music, Spotify, really have a grasp and hold on the advertising market. So it's going to be exciting to see how Tidal is going to become the next much bigger player seeing it soon. So it's going to be exciting.
When you think about it, right? Twitter is just basically a marketplace, ads at this point. So it makes sense. The thing I'm more surprised about is the fact that Two knows about Tidal.
I didn't know that. I
think that's the biggest news here. I don't really catch you as a high fidelity music listener. So when you're gonna tell me you're a user of Tidal?
I'm not a user of Tidal actually, because I don't pay for music streaming services. I'm a cheap ass that way. But I know a lot about Tidal because I am a Jay-Z fan, right? So I do know a lot about Tidal from that perspective.
Well, let me tell you my perspective as a Tidal user who's not a fan of Jay-Z.
Okay.
So complete opposite, but if you think about it more inside, Tidal's really great. I think it fits that niche for very what we call ourselves, audio affiliates. People who really care about
audiophiles,
whatever. They basically really care about the quality of music, right? It's to the point that if someone recommends them Spotify, they kind of spit on their faces. Spotify is notorious for having really low quality on a streaming service, but for many people, they don't really care, right? For most people, they can't even tell the difference if you gave them two different quality of audios. It just sounds the same. Of course, it comes down to the equipment you're running on. Like if you're running on like an iPhone 5, and you're not going to hear a difference if you have both of them. But if you have the equipment, there's going to be a difference. And Tidal gives you that option that a lot of streaming services don't have. Apple Music, Spotify, they don't really have an option for high fidelity streaming audio quality. And Tidal does, to the point that I think they patented their own format called Master, which runs at a 24-bit, 48 kilohertz per second streaming rate without having all the data transfer. I think they do it like I think some sort of algorithm where they kind of they do like every half a second, and they fill in the gaps. So they're able to basically get the similar quality, but without all the data payload of it associated with it. So it's kind of their own format. They call it Master, and they claim it's almost basically as good as hearing it in the studio. But I personally use it. I think it's great. And honestly, I think the biggest issue is that it just needs more eyes on it. I think it needs more people. I think pretty much their UI is pretty good. Their what they're selling, I think, is perfect for the right person. The only thing I think it really comes down to is like small qualities of life. Like the recommendation algorithms is like horrible compared to Spotify. I think they still reign king on that, and just other stuff like that. And of course, if you're someone who doesn't really care about quality, this is not gonna win you over. But like you said, like Forrest said, having more marketing for them, it's gonna really help them out.
We also have to remember the one big difference you see between Spotify, Apple Music, and Tidal is that Spotify and Apple Music, as well as YouTube Music, right? They have just a much wider selection of songs to listen to, right?
That's
and
true.
I think Tidal I think Tidal being acquired by literally a company that manages finances for a living will actually like be a much better partner in order to manage their finances and get the rights and copyrights to a lot more music, right?
To be
So
fair, yeah. I mean, it definitely helps.
And if you think about like you know, the new owner Jack Dorsey, like him or hate him, he's really good at designing a user experience, and he's really good at working with graph relationship based data. Right? Twitter shows that. Twitter has an immense user base, and they are very good at quickly getting you your feed, connecting with your followers, showing you tweets that are related to the tweets that you're interested in and have been liking. Right? I mean, in terms of relating data back to you and using graph logic like that, his experience from Twitter, as well as the Twitter UI, which in my opinion is probably the nicest UI out of every single what do you call it? Social media out there. I'm a big fan of Twitter's UI. You know, combine all that. Plus, now think about how well Square integrates, right? All their marketing that they do, and just like their user experience as well. I think that they're going to be big hits in Tidal and can lead to some major developments in terms of their overall experience, and then, you know, just the publicity that comes by it. I bet you there are some artists that might not even know of Tidal, you know, or don't have no interest in it. But now Jack Dorsey owns Tidal, and all of a sudden people will be interested just because they know
people are
him.
going to care about it. Yeah. I'm glad you brought up the UI thing, because I think another thing that, speaking of Square, does really well is their UI too. Like, if you think about it, I think one of the most difficult applications to make a good UI for is fintech most of the time, and they make it so nice. As someone who used Square before, it's really like user friendly, like to the point like you don't even need to know like the most complicated stuff, and you can still manage most of your business and stuff like that on the fly. I think you're right, and I really can't wait to see how Tidal improves from this.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. Also, Nine, I really didn't know that you were into the high fidelity music either. I mean, I'm sitting here expecting like, what are you going to tell me? Like, oh, let me show you my Macintosh preamp and my Bowers & Wilkins 808 Dinosaur speakers. Come on.
Dude, when you buy a turntable, you pretty much get high fidelity community. You're pretty much asking for.
I will never forget listening in a audio demo room to The Sound of Silence be played on that pair of Bowers & Wilkins 808 Diamond Series speakers. They, you know, it's quite incredible. You know, I can never listen to music the same way ever again, because it was just so crystal clear.
Yeah,
and spectacular. Anyway, I think you two will really like this next article. This is big news. Flutter 2, baby. Flutter 2.
Ooh, I heard about this.
So we've got more developments coming out of Google's Flutter project. For those of you who don't know what Flutter is, it's another native solution for mobile apps. At least that's mostly what they did. You know, it's like React Native, where instead of needing to program in, you know, Objective-C / Swift or Java / Kotlin, you can program in like JavaScript, for example, as React Native, or in Dart, or use Dart for Flutter, right?
Yeah.
It's a way for developers to make one application that's, you know, multi-platform available very easily. Anyway, Flutter was always slightly behind their biggest competition with React and React Native, because they did not have any web app support, and I don't believe React has direct support in the desktop app environment. I mean, I know Electron exists, but I don't know if that's directly managed by React in the same way. But, you know, anyway, they were kind of lacking in their other areas, in other kind of application types. But now, Flutter is kind of looking like they might try to take a step ahead. So Flutter has released more support for web applications, right? For Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Edge. It's also got a little bit more support for IoT devices now, right? You know, cars, TVs, home appliances, whatever. And I believe the biggest update coming out of this is their desktop app support, which is meant to be, I guess, kind of a better replacement for what is now Electron, is now part of their stable branch. And they do note, just because they've added it to stable, they wanted to make it fully available to everybody without restriction, but it is still not completely finalized. So even though it's in stable, it's not quite stable yet, if that makes sense to you guys. But
Yep, that makes sense.
Anyway, you know, this is a kind of a big move for Flutter. It's been long awaited. A lot of people have been, you know, kind of, even myself included, have been waiting to get on the Flutter bandwagon, because, you know, there are things that React does very well, like I said, including being able to make websites and mobile apps with some shared code base, and now that Flutter is taking that extra step as well, I think that that's going to be big for them. And the fact that they have the added desktop support, that's even bigger. Imagine being able to build an app for Chrome, Firefox, Edge, for iOS, Android, right? For Windows and Mac, right? All at the same time with very similar shared code bases and shared components. It's kind of incredible.
Look, I am super excited for this. I've been waiting forever for them to actually have stable web, and so it's going to be a really fun conversation on how to work tomorrow.
It's not stable.
No, web is stable. They now support desktop applications, which are not stable, but they are phasing out the beta version of it. So it's like so 9. Remember when we were programming the mobile apps, right? And how web wasn't stable; it was still a beta version. Now it's the same thing, but now you have mobile and web are stable, and now desktop support is in the beta version. So this is actually super exciting from a developer standpoint to actually see, mobile and web app support all in one, right? And I'm excited to see. And I didn't even know they were focusing on desktop support, so I can't wait to also write native desktop apps within the next couple of years with Flutter 3. Right, so this is super, super, super exciting, personally for me, from a Flutter user and a Flutter developer. So I'm excited to see, all the support and the community that comes around this. But 9, I'm gonna shoot it over to you as my fellow Flutter dev.
It's all right.
All right, cool.
I love it. I knew this was going on. There was a rumor a couple of weeks ago, I think a week or two. I follow a lot of the Flutter forums and communities, right? And there was one that someone noted that Flutter's website recently changed their release tags to add Windows, Mac, and Linux, and then everyone was just hyping up. Oh, that means web's coming out. So this has been kind of rumored for like a week or two. So I'm glad they finally announced it. And yeah, like Tu said, as someone who uses Flutter, who has proclaimed the appeal and the benefits of Flutter compared to React Native and all those to many people, like at least 10. And
at least 10.
and has announced that I think Flutter has a great future. This is a great step in terms of that. I think Flutter has a great potential. I don't think it's going to outright replace React and stuff like that, because I think it's always going to have its own use and its own use cases and stuff like that. But like Tu said, the ability to have a developer, even a small team now, create a large array of different tools and applications from across different platforms. That's a power move. That's a legit power move. You're talking about what took like 3 dedicated teams, could not be done with one small team. So it's really fascinating. I really can't wait to play around with this all this weekend. That's what my weekend plans are probably going to be. So
same. My weekend plans have just changed.
Looking forward to it. This is really great news. This is a really good week. So,
well, keeping with the theme of Google, let's go ahead and do one more big Google article for this week. Google has promised to stop selling targeted ads based on browsing history. So this is kind of massive for Google, right? Because, up until now...
That's their business.
Up until now, you're right, that's their business, right? They've always been known as that kind of data giant, right? All they do is track people. They sell data. They advertise. They market, right? This is all Google does. That's like their entire monetary platform.
It's bread and butter.
Correct. So, I don't think any of us could have saw this coming. It's something we've been wishing for, right? We preach privacy every week on this show, and how important it is. And I don't know what made Google do it. Maybe it was the fact that everyone is annoyed with them and they're fed up, and they want their privacy. Maybe something is going on in the background where they're, in legal risk, or they've been threatened, with legal action or whatever. I think that's more likely, to be honest, because I don't think Google would just willingly stop selling targeted ads. But,
we found another way.
Regardless, I think this is a great thing. I'm happy to see Google do it, and let's get your opinions.
It is. I'm honestly, I love it. I'm just kind of like, that when you find out something like so good to be true that you're like, wait a minute, what are you trying to do? That's what I'm kind of feeling right now. Like I'm waiting for next week's news to be like, and Google just discovered how to take your data without even you knowing, or something like that. I'm waiting for some sort of like gotcha moment, and the fact that it still hasn't come is making me kind of happy. I think this has been like couple of days now since this got announced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's kind of being like, oh god, is this actually like real? But I'm still waiting. I don't want to get tricked. You can't trick me, Google. Not yet. But yeah, if this is legit true and there's no what's it called, gotchas or 180 tricks coming up, I think this is fascinating. I think this is literally like the type of joke you would say like last week if you told me that Google would do this. No way in hell I would even believe you. If a time travel went back in time and I knew he time traveled and he told me this, I still wouldn't believe him. I will bet him money that if this is not happening, this is one of your time traveling tricks. You can't trick me time traveling. But I mean, it's fascinating. I'm kind of curious. Like Forrest said, what's the reason behind this? Did they just kind of got fed up with how the public viewed them in that aspect, or is there some sort of big legal battle happening in the background? I'm really curious about it. What do you think too?
Yeah, there's gonna be they definitely gotta be doing something, dude. Like, come on. This is literally it's like us saying that, you know what, I'm gonna start working for free now. Right? Like,
oh, you are? I got a couple projects for you.
Dude, there's no way that Google there has to be some other way Google's making money because yes, they're still running advertisements. Yes, they'll still be making money off advertisements, but targeted ads, right? Click-through rates on ads are what gets them, that's their bread and butter. Right? So, there's definitely something. They definitely have something up their sleeve, right? And Google, Google houses some of the smartest engineers in the world. They can have anyone go and work for them, right? Because they have the unlimited resources, aka money, to pay any engineer in the world to come and work for them, right? So, at the end of the day, they're definitely up to something. I don't know what, but since it's Google, I'm sure they have come up with some ingenious approach to be doing something. Hell, they might be just selling my data to the Russians, right? So, like, whatever it may be, but it's a very interesting move by Google, and I'm interested to see the 10K filings, the quarterly filings that come out, and how they plan on addressing this on a more public level, right? Once it comes out.
I think I figured it out. I think I just realized what it is. It's a really early April Fool's joke. And they're going to tell you next month that this was all a big joke and they wanted to see how people react and they're going to laugh and like,
Google is known for that.
Exactly. And what would be an even better way to prank people on April Fool's? Doing it not on April Fool's. I would never see it coming. So,
well, see, the article was released on March 1st. Which maybe nope, just kidding. Yeah.
Damn it. Could have been it. That could have been it. I still think it is. I mean, April Fool's only a couple less than a month away, so they got time to counteract this. But we'll see, Google. I'm gonna put a little faith in you and believe that you're doing the right thing. Maybe they have enough money. Who knows? Maybe they actually just look at the bank like, you know what, we did it.
Tell me a company that does when Apple does that, right? Then I'll believe it. All right, like I haven't even seen Apple do that. So until that happens. Yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Anyway, let's go some more into this privacy conversation, right? Another pretty big article coming out. So the privacy-focused browser Brave has just recently acquired Tailcat, which is a search engine, and
hell yeah.
And what's the biggest search engine in the world? Google. What do they do every time you make a search? They load down your data, they write it down, and they make a profile of you
anymore. They don't do target ads anymore.
So, anyway, Brave now essentially is going to be offering profile-free searching, right? So you can make a search, and they're not going to be building a profile on you. They're not going to be able to, you won't be able to go like you can on Google's website and look up what you are without actually have ever told Google what you are. Right? Google can tell you what age you are, where you live, what your hobbies are, things you like, things you're bound to buy. Like, they literally have it on a page. I forget the link, but if you just Google, like, Google profile or Google ad profile, I'm sure you can find it. But, it's kind of scary how much they can infer about you just based on the things you're searching for. I think it's a huge privacy violation. And, I mean, Brave is doing everyone in the world a service by offering these types of features. And, I mean, I know I preach it a lot, but I should really start using browsers like Brave a little bit more and kind of trying to get them more built into my standard repertoire of products.
Hey, they pay you in crypto.
They do.
You're right, they do.
Right? They do pay me in crypto. You're right. I love it.
Personally, for me, I don't know much about the search engine, right? So I can't really comment much. But it's definitely an interesting approach, right? Because I know, especially for Nine, who just uses DuckDuckGo for a living, still don't understand how he can.
Everyone looks at me weird, but like when Apple come and get you, which run pattern you're running on to get away, and I'm using DuckDuckGo to hide that information, we'll see who's laughing.
All right, but anyway, like for someone, yeah. So for me personally, I still use the king of search engines, right? I use Google on pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So, but it's gonna be interesting to see how Tailcat does, right? Because now you're having searches that are not tailored to a person and like what they've recently searched for. Like that's from a data model and data modeling and data machine learning perspective, right? Like, dude, that's hard to get you the most accurate results, right? Unless you may not profile all the users, and maybe you could do it on a batch-based process with all the searches that you're getting. But that's still like it takes time to collect all that data. So maybe Tailcat has that data in a proper format for them to do this. But I guess we'll have to see a little bit more from Brave and Tailcat combination here. But it's definitely an interesting approach because now you have a true competitor to Google in the market with a browser and search engine combination, right? Whereas you didn't have that with Firefox. You have that kind of with Edge and Bing, but like Edge is still getting there, right? And then you don't even have that with Safari, right? So It's going to be an interesting one to see moving forward.
I actually exclusively use ask.com as my search engine.
Nice.
I actually still have the Ask toolbar on my Internet Explorer on my Windows XP machine.
Ask Jeeves? You got Ask Jeeves?
Of course.
Oh, nice. I think it's real interesting. I mean, I'm a user of Brave. I'm very brave, and I think it's pretty fascinating. I'm wondering if the expectations that kind of laid out kind of got nullified because a big appeal of this is the fact that targeted ads can hit you, right? But then like the day before, Google was like, "We're not doing targeted ads anymore." So I wonder if that kind of like changed. Like, oh God, what do we do now? That was our big appeal. But I think there's still to say that I think the still appeal of this is like competition, right? You want true competition on the market, and it just doesn't exist right now. So having Brave and its own dedicated search engine, which unlike DuckDuckGo, which I just learned right now, DuckDuckGo relies on Bing and like Google to like give you its search suggestions. Tailgate's gonna use completely on its own. It's not gonna rely on any of those sources. So it's truly independent. So I'm really curious how this works out. But it could be all fun and games, but until you actually use it, if it doesn't help you at all, there's no point.
Agreed. Yep. Definitely agree with that one.
Well, I mean, you know how this is. I'm just going to keep going with these privacy stories. So let's get another one in here. Federal government is warning about the threat, quote unquote, of encryption, and this is directly in relation to how encryption makes it difficult for the government to actually find out who people are in terms of like terrorists and extremists. And it kind of really inhibits their abilities to find people, track people, and kind of monitor for national security threats. Now, overall, I'll give my opinion quick and then let you guys give your opinion. I think we've kind of talked on this topic before, but I don't think encryption regulation is necessarily even directly constitutional for one, because I believe if we look at previous history, I believe the Supreme Court has ruled that information in terms of documents is clarified as free speech. So me being able to publish whatever I want or send whatever data I want, right? I think even encrypted data would be covered as free speech. I believe, I'm not 100% positive, but just based off some of the stuff I've read on this topic is kind of what I'm leaning towards. And outside of that, I don't think that the government could even really stop this, right? Even if it was outlawed and encryption was kind of outlawed on every platform and all WhatsApp stuff was, kind of now in plain text, and the government could get access to whatever they wanted, and it wasn't end-to-end anymore. It doesn't stop people from just encrypting data at the client side and sending it encrypted, right? And using things like PGP networks and kind of handling encryption themselves. If you're going to be doing malicious things, I think that these are, definitely trends that will start happening, and the government can't stop that, right? So they still have no insight. Now, effectively, all you've done is kind of gotten rid of privacy for the rest of everybody else. Math doesn't just go away, which is all encryption is. It's literally just math and probability. It just doesn't go away because the government says it's bad, right? So what do you guys think about this?
It's interesting. I would say I think that pretty much it's interesting how with encryption we praise encryption, security, stuff like that, but again we talked about the thing long time ago. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yep.
We the tool is great, but it depends on who uses it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that doesn't mean that we should just give up on encryption, right? That's not the point of the point of this thing, but it does mean that we face a unique challenge when it comes to these things. And I think this is going to be, of course, first of many examples of encryption being used for the wrong thing. But it just means that we have to, leverage even stronger encryption and prevent, these encryption tools being fall in the wrong hands. It's going to be a weird balancing act, especially as, we talked about, we want security and policy focus, applications be more available to everyone. We talked about Brave, and we talked about how Google stopped doing target ads. Privacy being more of a forefront. The more these tools are being spread out to the public, the more chances are it's going to be used for, I guess, not intended uses. So it's difficult to say how this is going to be, but I can see, instances of this being on the uprise as privacy becomes a more heated feature. What do you think, too?
It's definitely interesting, right? And it's definitely tough to guard against this, right? I've been saying this in the past, and I've been saying it, more consistently lately. But like I said, technology is the next big industry that's going to get targeted for regulation, right? I have a very strong feeling that there's going to be regulations on what security chat platforms can use, what security do data providers have to actually provide to make sure your data is safe. There's going to be a lot of different realms where all this will be applied and all the security will come to fold. And regulation is highly overdue for the technology industry. But it's like Four has brought up many times in the past too, regulation will also stifle creativity, right? And so it's a very hard balance to get here. And honestly, it's just going to get harder and harder as the years progress.
Yep.
Right. So we'll see how it plays out. But it's definitely right from a federal perspective, right? You can't build a back door for the federal government because inevitably a hacker will get access to that back door. Yep. It's just a known trade in the tech industry, right? So
it's just the clock that's
it's gonna be hard, but it's also safer for the average consumer now at the end of the day, where everything's getting more and more back to the way it originally was, where the government doesn't know anything, right? So
yeah, pretty much. It'd be interesting how this thing turns out.
And like I said, you have all these public algorithms, right? You've got Diffie-Hellman for key exchange. You've got stuff like RSA and Paleo encryption, which is literally just generate a pair of keys, distribute it using some type of Diffie-Hellman key exchange or whatever, and then it's simple. It's literally just exponents. You're just using exponents. That's it, right? And you can easily and securely send messages back and forth. Some random numbers, some large exponentials, and bam, you've got a message that can't be cracked without the key, right? These topics, this math doesn't just go away. So even if you introduce regulation for this, I really, in my opinion, I don't think that a lot of your bad actors and people that want to do harm and are trying to plan illegal activity, like terrorist activity, like extremist activity, overall bad people, I don't think that they are going to really pay the same price that average consumers will in terms of, your messages are now open for hackers to see. You send a credit card number, if that can't be encrypted, someone will pick that up, right? There's so many other areas of risk that are created, and I just don't think you will actually solve the problem.
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
Anyway, two other quick articles. I know we're going a little bit over time here, so I'll just quickly run through these. More I guess, government-related articles. One more privacy and cybersecurity-related one. So the U.S. government, for the first time in a while, the CISA, it's the Cloud and Information Security Agency. I believe that's what they stand for. I'm sorry, the Cybersecurity and Information Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA. They recently had to release a directive for all government networks to run a certain patch in order to protect against a Chinese hack on Microsoft's Outlook Exchange, their emailing system, right? So this is kind of big. You've got one government body kind of directing everybody, like, hey, right now, please go update this, right? Massive risk.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a big problem. And then one last article in terms of internet and government, and this is kind of totally unbelievable, right? Just because we all know how government handles the internet. They're always, so far behind and out of the loop and have no idea what's going on. Various senators have called on the FCC to quadruple base high internet speeds, right? So throughout the pandemic, everyone has kind of realized that slow internet is not an option, right? People need to work from home. They need good internet for being able to upload and download documents, to be able to take part in Zoom calls and, live streams and whatever, and webinars, and, speeds of like 3 megabits per second and slower are no longer cutting it. And, in America, we should be able to provide speeds faster than that, way faster than that, to everyone across the country. So if we look at it, this is the senators that were on board with this. You're looking at Michael Bennet from Colorado, Joe Manchin from West Virginia, Angus King from, I believe this is Maine, and then Rob Portman from Ohio. And this is actually a bipartisan initiative here, right? You've got one Republican, one Independent, and 2 Democrats that are backing this push. It's very rare to see. We live in very political times. Things are very polarized right now. So being able to see a bill that everyone kind of get behind and back is a breath of fresh air, very refreshing. And, I think they have a really good point. This is something that should be happening right now. And, it should have happened earlier. There's no reason for the government to have to push for this type of stuff from our broadband and connectivity providers. So, you guys, if you want, briefly kind of give me your thoughts on those last 2 articles.
I forgot the other one before that, to be honest with you. But for this one, the
Chinese
FCC
hacks
one,
Outlook Exchange.
Yeah, I'm not surprised on that one. It's the Chinese. When are they not hacking something that we have, right? Yeah. So it's like a normal day-to-day basis there. But for the this one's an interesting one, right? The FCC one, right? Because you guys already know I'm a huge proponent of increasing internet speeds across the whole nation for children and for people who are, especially in this whole COVID environment, don't have access to this. And so definitely a huge proponent of that. Yeah. So, Nine, what are your thoughts?
I mean, the same. I pretty much agree with you. It's, especially with, the Chinese, that should be like kind of like or PD news, just kind of staple on.
Yeah, that should be just a given.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, yeah, wow.
Okay, that's my news for Monday. I'll move on.
The Chinese and the Russians, right? There's always something.
They don't like us. They don't like us, okay?
Yeah.
We should just sit down and just talk out our grievances. They don't like each other. We gotta talk our grievances out. And the FCC, I kind of agree with too. Though. I completely agree. It's just the type of thing that I hope they get more help and hope they sort this thing out eventually.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Anyway, we went a little bit over, but I wanted to get through some of these cool articles, so happy we did. Hope you enjoyed this week. If there's anything you want to hear us talk about in the future, go ahead and reach out to us on social media. Be happy to do maybe a special
at the 429 podcast on literally every social media.
Yep. Other than that, we will see you guys in the next episode of Techcast, episode 28 next week. I believe it is Nine's week. So we all know that there's going to be an absolutely jam-packed week of tech news because it always happens for Nine's week. So
and then expect a nice no news week after that. Yep. There's nothing going on. Maybe a Chinese hack, but that's it. That's a given.
Yeah, that's usually my week. There's never anything going on in my weeks. I don't know why.
It's so funny, right? Everything goes on during Nine's week. I feel like there's so much privacy news during my weeks, and then Two's week has like nothing.
The universe speaks to us.
Have you guys heard of the Tamagotchi? It's back, guys.
It's back.
That's big news, okay? Don't lie. Don't joke about that.
All right, guys. Anyway, it's been fun, and we will talk to you next week. All right. Bye-bye.
Take care, guys.